July 15th. Again, it's 6:30 p.m. And we are holding this meeting via Zoom this evening. You can log on either through the agenda on the link or Zoom on your tablet, computer, or iPhone or whatever, or you can go through the audio. There's a number there as well for those that choose to do that. During the Zoom, it's being recorded, so the chats and whatever is spoken is recorded and captured. So let everybody know that as well. And we'll start off with the roll call from Lisa.
Williams.
Aye.
Ratcliffe.
Aye.
Schultz. Brinkmeyer.
Yes.
Broom.
Aye.
Justison.
Aye.
Sale.
Aye.
We are all here.
All right. We'll start then with, we do have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So find a flag wherever you can find it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So everybody got the memo to wear blue, so that's good. Most people. Next item then is item 4 is public appearances. Public's opportunity to speak on any subject that is not a specific agenda item for this particular meeting. And I will pause for a moment to allow anybody that would like to speak from the public. All right, then next we will move on to discuss and consider the meeting minutes from our last meeting on June 10th. Any edits or corrections to that?
I had one to note, if we could, at item 6, third line at the end, it said Joe Wagner starts commenting. And I just was wondering if we could add Joe Wagner with Gray Wolf commented so that we know that it's somebody not from the Houston group there.
Good catch, Melissa. Any other items?
So I guess I would make a motion to approve with that change.
Okay, we have a first. Is there a second?
Second.
I think Fred maybe made it in there. I don't know. It was pretty quick. Alex, you got to get the buzzer a little quicker. We have a motion and a second then. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain?
Aye, Kyle Broom.
Okay. Kyle abstains. Okay. Motion carries then. Item 6 then is a public hearing. It's the opportunity for public's input to provide regarding a proposed amendment to the Village of Cottage Grove's comprehensive plan. So we will open the public hearing and just kind of let everyone know kind of the flow of this. We'll look for, in this case, input from Aaron. So typically it would be the applicant but in this case, it would be Aaron primarily and others on staff, providing an overview of the memo that he's put in the packet. Then certainly the commission is opportunity to ask questions, and then we'll kick it over to anyone from the public who would like to provide their comments. Please not to exceed 3 minutes in case we do have quite a few folks that want to talk. And then also please to share your name and address so that we can capture that for the records. And then we'll close the public hearing, and then the commission will continue on with the agenda. So with that, Aaron, do you want to start us off?
Sure. This is all material that should be pretty familiar at this point. The proposed amendments in the staff report this time are identical to what you approved last time as the draft public hearing copy. So we would recommend approval of those changes.
Okay. Any questions for Aaron at this point? All right, then we'll move on to pause a moment to see if public has any comments. So I'll shut my mouth for a second and allow that to happen. Again, anyone from the public who would like to speak on this particular item is your opportunity now. All right, then, if there's no other questions from commissions or comments from public, I'll move to close the public hearing, and we'll move on to item 7, which is discuss and consider the proposed amendments we just covered to the village comprehensive plan. Any comments from commission members?
So again, just jump in here. I would say that what we'd be approving is the resolution that I had sent out via email this afternoon, which basically is the mechanism by which the amendments in the staff report are made official and documented to pass on to the village board.
Okay, and that's resolution 2020-09. That
I believe
Aaron-
so. Lisa can correct me if that number is wrong. We can change.
She's always keeping
Where
us
the
on.
line is left off.
All right. Hopefully everybody got a chance to look at that as well. Fairly short and sweet, half page, but essentially makes reference to these two changes to the plan.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2020-09 adopting and recommending amendments to the comprehensive plan.
Second.
All right, second from Don. All right, any other further discussion?
Yes. I'm against it. I don't want to see the area 3 changed from planned business.
Okay,
And I believe I was on record as saying that previously. So
yes, you were, Fred.
Aaron, can you walk us through that area 3 a little bit more as to what it is and what the intent is of this change, just so we all have clarity as to what it is we're looking at here?
Yes, the mixed use area. This is the 3 1-acre parcels owned by Hamburg, north of the Stop and Go, on N, just north of School Road. Currently, they're in the comp plan as planned business, so for a business use only. The change would be to allow mixed use or multifamily on those parcels, up to 100 units. A project that would be similar to the moving out project that was presented, but not necessarily specific to that project. This change would allow potentially any project of that type to come in.
Does it still does it prevent the use of businesses, or this is opening the door to more than what it was?
Let me double check before I speak, but the intention is that it could remain commercial or become multi.
Is that the intent? Is that's what it does? I just want to make sure I'm clear on the language, because I really wasn't sure about this part either. I mean, we had a lot of
Each of
discussions
the
with
remaining parcels are currently zoned planned business and could be developed per that zoning. However, it also introduces the multifamily. So yes, it could remain for business use as well. It's presenting another option for those parcels that have been sitting vacant for 20 years or so.
So what are the main variances then between planned business and commercial use? Is there one, we're just thinking about like setbacks, thinking about how the area in the space is developed. What does it mean to change that? Does any of that stuff change? I mean, main thoroughfare, into the village and all that stuff. So how does that look and feel?
The front setback to N would be the same, whether it's business or a multifamily use. Now, multifamily use of a larger scale, such as what was presented by moving out, would be done as a planned unit development, which could introduce some flexibility that way. I think as far as design standards, I think we'd be looking for similar type of design quality. It's really just adding the residential use to the parcels would be the main change.
Alex, does that clarify or help?
Yeah, and I guess like just to ask Fred a question, and you've mentioned your stance before, and I'm not trying to change your mind or anything, but could you talk a little bit about, I guess, because you have a lot of history with this area and that type of stuff, and where it was zoned commercial before, the intent of the original plan, and then this change. Like, how do you think this affects that area?
Well, for this. I mean, it was always, for as long as I've lived in the village or been involved with the local government, it's been designed to be a business area. We've got Vinnie's there, you've got the clinic, obviously you have the stop and go. I just think it makes more sense to have some other type of business or commercial there rather than a mixed use building. I don't know. It's just I don't like the fact that there's a gas station right there and we're going to have a 100-unit apartment building across the street. So I think it's going to be a popular hangout. So, but that's just, we need more businesses in this community. It's not really our fault that Mr. Hamburg hasn't been able to sell the lots. He knew what it was zoned when he bought them, and he's brought at least 2 businesses have been brought before the board, I believe, for discussion that for whatever reason fell through. So
yeah, I kind of want to agree with you. I mean, you certainly have more history with the village than I do, and kind of looking at that area being a commercial area, it really kind of fits the model of what's kind of going on right there, right? So
several of my neighbors have contacted me, and they wanted to know why they weren't notified about any kind of public hearing. And they're against it too. So I mean, I'm kind of doing what I think the citizens in the area are in favor of, and that's keeping it commercial or planned business.
Are you sure at this point that they would want anything there? Like, we ran into that when the moving out project was looking at being on Cottage Grove Road. People were just against anything being there because they like it open now.
No, they're not against anything being there, and this isn't about the proposed project, because I think it's a great project. I just don't think that's where it belongs. It's pretty far from any kind of park. I mean, it's not really. I mean, it ends a busy road. I think there's better use for it. And anyone who's, granted, there are lights there now, but anyone who's tried to get out of there before COVID, you're sitting through the light probably 2 or 3 times to turn either direction onto N, in the morning and at night.
Yeah, the daycare's there too.
Right. Which is another, yeah, so.
Thanks for your input, Fred. I mean, I think I'm kind of with you on this here for this area number 3. Well, it doesn't seem, asking Aaron, it doesn't seem to prevent us from still using it for business, but now it's this either or, and it kind of, in a sense, could create confusion as to what is the plan. We want this or we want that, and I think, I always did envision businesses there. I liked some of the presentations that were brought to the board before for those uses. So there is interest in commercial somehow, but getting it completed, that's beyond the scope that we can handle for sure. But it actually, definitely sets a tone and direction, seeing the plans that people have brought to us before. So yeah, thanks for your comments.
Other items discussion regarding proposed change to the comprehensive plan?
Aaron, is there density limit changes with the proposed change?
Didn't quite catch that. Could you repeat that?
Is there density differences with the proposed change?
Yeah, I mean, it could be up to 100 units of residential, whereas, the businesses would probably be something more similar to stop and go or a small office or small retail. Kevin might be able to weigh in on how traffic would compare between those sets of uses better than I can.
Yeah, I'd like to hear if that's been studied before we make a change.
I don't think any of that's been studied that I'm aware of. I'd have to look at that honestly with our traffic folks. I could get you that info, but I definitely don't have it right at the moment at my fingertips.
Okay, because I know that was a pretty big concern from the fire department in the past, and that would be a concern of mine right now.
There's also a connecting road there too that needs to be completed. I think it's Wilson or whatever. So the flow of traffic can hit 2 different lights. I don't know, to Fred's point, I don't think necessarily that'll help a lot because you already have Cottage Grove Commons on that corner there. So people probably would choose just to go out by stop and go. But just another, is that something the board needs as far as making a decision? A majority of the board, the commission, I'm sorry.
It'd be a big factor for a change for me regarding that traffic. I know how big of a concern it was from the fire department in the past.
So we need to know what it would be versus if there were some sort of couple businesses there versus a large plan unit development. Kevin, that's
correct.
What we'd be looking at.
Yes.
I can work with Aaron and get the specific info based on his changes or whatever and run that by if that works for you, Aaron. And we can run it by our traffic folks real quick.
Sure.
Is that the desire of the commission then? To have that information before making a decision, at least on that particular change to the comprehensive plan?
I would say yes.
Okay. It wouldn't hurt to have the information. I guess the question that I'd have then is the other portion of the change of the comprehensive plan, can we still tackle that? It's probably a question for maybe even Larry or do we have to handle them both because they're handled together? Larry, you're on mute. So
Yeah, it takes a while to get the clicker to work on this. Can everyone hear me?
yes.
Yes.
So you can definitely make changes to a comprehensive plan prior to changing the zoning ordinance. I wouldn't make the change the other way around though. Zoning decisions are generally supposed to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So it's up to you and the commission and the board as to whether or not they want to move forward with a comp plan change separate from zoning.
Okay, so my question, Larry, was there's two items here. There's one for the Wyden Olson property, and then this one for the spot the Hamburg properties that are covered in these two changes in the comprehensive plan. And my question is, can we do one of them if there's no issue with the Olson portion of the comprehensive change? Can we handle that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I looked to Aaron just for his concurrence to make sure that we're on the same page.
I would agree.
So at this point, though, what this resolution does is just change the comp plan so that it can be changed to planned business. It's not approving any specific development at this point. So we don't necessarily need the traffic numbers. That can be revisited next time as far as what people are comfortable with, I think.
Well, it's allowing a more dense use without having the information that a more dense use is possible. So that's my concern.
So with large development, though, we're talking about maybe a couple of small offices or like another gas station were the examples, which is just a little bit of traffic, but there could be a large business that came in there too with lots of traffic coming and going. So right now you don't know the traffic flow for that area if a business did come in either.
I think it's different if you compare multifamily to large business.
I think
Well,
that's
it depends on the business because you don't know what type of business, if it's one where there's lots of people coming and going or one where a lot of people stay there either. I mean, it does make a difference.
We did something very similar in looking at it when we were looking at the hotel there on Landmark, where we just kind of said, you know, if it was a restaurant or fast food, you can kind of get an idea of, you know, rough number of traffic, you know, based on projections. It's obviously rough. You never know exactly, but you know, just based on history, they've got amounts for that, and you can kind of do that for, you know, a large development like you're talking as well. So we can get some ideas anyway as to, you know, like I said, what range you're talking as to, you know, if it's comparable or if one is way exceeding another.
And it sounds like from several commission members that would be helpful for making the decision here, it looks like. Would someone want to even entertain a motion then regarding the Wyden Olson property change?
There's already on the table.
I'm sorry, there is. We lost track of time there. So that we do have a motion and a second for the approval of the current resolution for both items. Is there any further discussion then? So having heard none, then all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
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 Anybody abstain? Motion does not carry. So back to my question about the other portion. If there's I think then at this point, at least for the Hamburg property, sounds like the commission would like Kevin to dig into some traffic numbers for that and bring this back up. Is there any consideration for a motion for the Wyden Olson property change to the comprehensive plan?
I will make a motion to approve the comprehensive plan for the planned neighborhood number 6.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Would have to be with the stipulation that I would amend the resolution as necessary to reflect.
Well, yes, sorry.
So Alex, you're okay with that?
I'm okay with that. Thank you, Aaron.
Okay, so that is in consideration of changing the resolution then as well. So any further discussion then from the commission? All right, then having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right, then we'll move on to discussing, sorry, I'm messing up. We'll open another public hearing to discuss the
Before
opportunity
we
for,
move on, can I just verify with Larry that this automatically means the other half is tabled? Or do we need a motion for that?
good catch, Aaron.
We don't need a motion for that.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Thanks, Aaron. All right, so then again, back on the agenda, item 8 is a public hearing. Again, opportunity for public to provide input regarding a proposed amendment to the Village of Cottage Grove Subdivision Ordinance to extend the timeline for recording a certified survey maps. This is in consideration of state law and an outdated ordinance. So we'll open the public hearing now. And as I said before, we'll get Aaron's update on the memo and any other staff input. Commission can ask questions and then look for public comment on this item and then close the public hearing. So Aaron, you want to start this one off, please?
Yeah, so again, this is the same as the draft we looked at last time. We're just required to have a public hearing before we can actually act on it. So that's what we're doing here. We'd recommend making the change just for the convenience of folks who are doing certified survey maps in the village. Make it less confusing for them.
Okay. Any questions from commission members? All right, then I will pause for a moment to allow any of the public to comment on this. All right, then we'll close the public hearing for this and move on then to item 9 is to discuss and consider the proposed amendment to the Village of Cottage Grove Subdivision Ordinance to extend the timeline for recording a certified survey maps.
I'll move approval of the proposed amendment of the Village of Cottage Grove Subdivision Ordinance to extend the timeline for recording certified survey maps.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, second from Don. All right, any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Moving on to item 10 then is a presentation by 1855 Saloon regarding concept for a site plan amendment at 218 South Main Street. This again is for feedback only, no action to be taken by the commission at this point.
There's a very brief memo in your packet, just giving a little bit of background. Basically, they're looking to expand their rear patio to allow more outdoor dining given the restrictions that are in place related to COVID. There's some green space there that they would convert. There was a earlier concept that was provided in the packet. They do have some more updated designs to show us tonight. We have Andy Meisman and Mike Calkins from Snyder and Associates. I think Andy was wanting to present something, so he can take it away.
Yep, I'm here. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm gonna see if I can share my screen here. Let me know if this works. If you can see just a Google aerial image right now.
We can see it, Andy. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks, guys. My name's Andy Meisman. I'm a landscape architect at Snyder and Associates. With me tonight is Mike Calkins, also from Snyder and Associates. We're working on this project to expand the patio, as Aaron mentioned, outside the 1855 saloon. You can see the saloon here on the bottom left of the site. Our proposed site improvements are really going to take place within this kind of squared off area where there's an existing fence that wraps around it. There's an existing parking lot here and an existing open tract of land where we're proposing our improvements. I'm going to switch over to the site plan really quick. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So let me just walk through some of these improvements really quick for you here. Our proposed patio expansion is this brown paver color area right here, just to the east of the existing outdoor patio space. Further to the east would be our proposed parking lot for the site. Bisecting that, the parking lot and the raised patio would be a sidewalk that would connect from Reynolds Street up towards the Drumlin Trail at the north side of the site. Overall, the main circulation here will work. Cars will come in from the south at the existing curb cut here and turn right and park in one of the 21 stalls we've included in on the eastern portion of the site. From that point, they could either walk up on the proposed sidewalk up towards the ramp where you would gain access to the expanded patio area. Also too, customers can enter the patio space obviously from the inside of the building. What we're planning on doing is raising the grade of this patio to meet the existing grade of the patio space outside, just to help with the flow of movement from the restaurant interior to the expanded outdoor patio space here. We're planning some movable planters in the middle here just to make a couple different rooms in the proposed site. Also adding adding proposed planting beds and landscape screening on the east and west portions of the site, just to help shield some of the existing parking and the proposed parking on the west. You can see here I drew a couple sections through the site that I'll show here next. Section A would be looking to the west and section B would be to the north. So moving on to the next screen here, section A is looking to the north. To the right side of the screen here, this would be the existing Drumlin Trail grade approximately. And you can see that patio expansion raising up about 3 feet or so here and using a ramp to gain access to that patio. Faded out in the background here would be the proposed planting bed and screening to help screen from the existing parking lot there. With the movable planters in the center of the patio space. To the left here or to the south of the site, would propose this stepped wall system to meet the existing grade of the parking lot, the parking entry for the apartments. Section B would be looking towards the north of the site, towards the Drumlin Trail. To the right here would be our proposed parking. We would propose a low seat wall with a landscape buffer again to help separate uses here. You can see the movable planters in the middle of the proposed patio and also a fence that would wrap around this space. To the left here or to the west of the site would be more plant screening as well as that fence and then the existing parking lot there. Some of these images further along here are just to kind of showcase just the general concept and design aesthetic we're going for. We're, you know, still looking at material options and what the full potential of the space could be. But this just gives you an idea of some of the outdoor dining experience of what it could look like out there. Also looking at some of the amenities that we might want to include, such as a movable bar or bags or TV screens or fire features. Also looking just at shade, and that will be an important component of the site, and whether that be temporary with movable tents or something more permanent in terms of an awning structure that could be over some of the space. Also, what will be important is just looking at the general aesthetic of what the seating looks like to help tie that into the existing interior architecture of the restaurant and how that flows from inside to out. And also looking at some of the movable planters of the site. I'm going to flip back up to the site plan here. And this is just our first pass on it. We're still looking at some of the proposed grading and drainage and stormwater and how to handle that and where we need to put that, whether it be underground or above ground. We're still kind of exploring those options right now. So that's about it in a nutshell. And if you guys have any questions, I can answer them now. And Mike Hawkins from Snyder is also on. You could help out if you guys have any questions regarding stormwater.
Any questions or comments from the commission members?
I have one. What's the proposed seating capacity?
We haven't looked at that in too much detail. I believe there's about 3,000 to 3,500 square feet or so of space out there. That's something that we'd have to look at in terms of what's applicable. But we're at about 3,000 to 3,500 square feet of proposed space right now.
And they would be served by the inside restrooms?
I believe so.
And do you guys have a proposed timeline at least? I mean, obviously it's a concept plan, but what are you looking at if you come back and gain approval and everything? When are you trying to accomplish this project?
I don't know, Mike, if you have a good outline laid out for scheduling.
Yeah, I can jump in. Mike Hawkins here. We're looking at coming back to you next month, trying to put enough detail together to get a submittal package together here in the next week or two, so that we can make some decisions and have a lot more information and data. We've got a good concept I think to move forward with the grades kind of figured out. We got to nail down the stormwater, and I think you'll hopefully see something formal for submittal next month, and trying to get something started and rolling and built in September and October timeframe, so we can use it this fall.
I have another question actually. Is this an increase in parking over what's there now?
Yes, I believe there's 12 or.
Okay.
Yeah, there is an increase, yes.
Right. Well, I think that's a good thing. So.
And
this is Kevin Lord. I guess I just wanted to jump in and just say I think I talked over just seeing this real quick with Eric Thompson, our stormwater engineer, and Andy, and then if you guys want to touch base with us just to make sure or look at options or something like that, we'd be happy to help out. But that was our concern with it, or not really concern, but just something that we'd have to work through with you guys and stuff is in quickly looking at it.
Yeah, I would agree, Kevin. The stormwater is probably the biggest design obstacle that we have in front of us, and looking at the entire area and what's been done in the past versus the current regulations. We'll be happy to reach out to you and Eric and work through that in the next week or so.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
I had a question. Is there a reason why there's increased parking then over what was currently there, or is it just aesthetics, or are you expecting more people then?
It just that the space allows more parking. I don't know that we're intentionally trying to increase it, but the space that's being modified just allows the 21 stalls versus what's out there now.
Okay, thank you.
So some of that may become stormwater area. That's part of the unknown right now, is combination of underground or above ground.
Randy, I don't know if you want to explain a little bit about the history of why that was saved as a green space and the trees and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, previously this was an environmental corridor. I can go back to Google image here. There were formerly 3 larger oak trees on the site there. I think they're aging pretty rapidly now. One was actually cut down. Another one was hit by a lightning that's still there, and they're declining in health. So that's the reason it's kind of all fenced off the way it is right now. But with the way they're degrading, it's time to put the whole site here to a better use.
Aaron, I'll jump in and ask that question on the environmental corridor. What steps do we need to take with the village to get that minor alteration made?
Yeah, so we checked in with CARPC on that, and basically by approving the site plan, we're verifying that we're okay with that corridor changing, and because it's not related to a wetland or a body of water or anything like that, it's just a minor change that they'll make once we make that approval.
Thank you.
Any other comments from commission members? I guess my one overall comment would be that this certainly would be a nice improvement. Additional parking would be good. More flexible space. It's another option for, folks that come to 1855 to enjoy a different space, obviously designed in the outdoors and everything. Certainly addresses some of the current situation that we're in around the pandemic, getting people spaced out and such. And it is sad to see those trees are declining. I've been by there recently, and the one probably needs to be removed right away because it's gutted out completely. The one probably, I think, got struck by lightning, and the other one is failing. So it certainly is time for kind of a relook at the area.
And another item that I'd like to point out is it is the intention to fence it and serve alcohol in that area with the dining experience. Also in the morning, I think the breakfast crowd using the cafe is wandering out and enjoying the weather too. So that could also be used in the morning crowd.
I think it's another nice feature as we bring the glacial bike trail through the rest of the village, that they'll be passing by this area. I think that will be also attractive for those that may want to stop and enjoy a lemonade or something. Any other comments from commission members? Otherwise, it sounds like we'll see Andy and Mike very soon with some more details. So thank you both for showing us this and spending the time with us. I'll move on then to item 11, which is review the background information related to a potential boundary agreement with the town of Sun Prairie. Aaron, it's your night, so.
To share my screen here. Everybody seeing that?
Yes.
So I just pulled out some of the old maps from the last time we talked to the town of Sun Prairie, which was a little bit further ago than I thought. It was about 2011 that a lot of these were dated to. So some of these are, conditions have changed a little bit since then, but this is one map that kind of showed all the growth occurring in the surrounding areas in the village, city of Madison and Sun Prairie, kind of all growing towards one another through the town. This one showed planned growth areas, some of which have filled in, especially in the Madison darker brown area there. Sun Prairie's growth area remains the same in their updated comp plan, and obviously the village is taking steps to develop the TID 10 area north of the freeway. Back then we took a look at ownership patterns, so we're not splitting property owners' properties into pieces as we look at long-term boundaries. Then as part of that process, we kind of started breaking down the different areas based on their characteristics and how they might get handled moving forward. And the most recent map we had was a little bit more of a bubble diagram, kind of looking at how potential things could be arranged moving forward. This A area would be kind of a development area for the village, most of which is now TID 10. Area B, many areas within this are developed now as rural residential subdivisions or the rural industrial park. I think the idea was that if it were to redevelop, it would potentially come into the village, but if it remained the same, it would probably just stay in the town unless septic systems failed or something like that that would require village services. The green areas are a mix of the county park, ag areas in F, some existing subdivisions in E, and the golf course in D. Again, those are all anticipated to remain in the town. At least that was the discussion at the time. And then the C area, we just kind of left off that it required further discussion back at the time, mostly because it would be, the city of Madison would have something to say about that area as well. I think as we have been talking to the city in regards to a boundary agreement with the town of Cottage Grove to the south, that is kind of an area they're also looking at. It kind of makes sense that this green shaded environmental corridor would probably be a long-term boundary between the village and the city of Madison. So that's kind of where it left off. Obviously, it never came to completion as a full-on boundary agreement, but as part of our discussions that we had with the town during the most recent urban service area expansion, they are interested in talking again. And again, whether it comes to a boundary agreement or not, I think there are other issues that could be discussed as far as stormwater management and how some of the town roads in the area are handled. And ultimately, if it comes to a boundary agreement, that would be good as well. But we just wanted to touch base with all of you because I think a lot of you are new since we went through this process several years ago. If you have any concerns or questions about the area, just wanted to get those addressed now, and then we'd plan on reaching out to town chairman Lyle Updike to try to meet sometime later this month.
Aaron, is there any other thought around, if things go well in TID 10, that the potential could be that we would move further down Highway N, or is there just topography issues and things like that that would prevent that?
There's a little bit of
the green obviously is an issue, but
current boundary, and then you get into the wetlands and floodplain, so it's just kind of an issue of how efficient is it to cross that or not.
Okay.
That would be kind of an engineering question we'd have to look at in more detail, and obviously the further north you go, the more Sun Prairie is going to be pushing back the other direction as
well. Questions from commission members?
Just a comment that Area C, one of the issues the town of Sun Prairie had was that if we did have a boundary agreement, they would have, I guess we would have a little bit more control of that instead of Madison. Madison seems to keep getting greedier and greedier in what they want for land, not only with the town of Sun Prairie, but the town of Cottage Grove too.
I think Aaron can touch on that when we get to the next topic, as far as, I'm sure he's got a map. I believe Madison's proposed boundary goes right along the, as Aaron said earlier, the space between, right, you know, taking up the yellow area and then butting up right against all that green corridor that is not really developable either with homes or in business, because it's fairly marshy, I guess.
I mean, one factor with this area C, if it ends up that we're not really serving any of area B with utilities, then we're running, you know, a mile plus of pipes that aren't serving anything just to try to serve this, you know, relatively small area that could possibly be more easily served by Madison. So it's kind of an efficiency question on whether we really want to take that on ourselves.
Okay. Other questions or comments from commission members? I think, Aaron, you can just, other than having the board weigh in on this, we'd probably just continue moving forward and see how it kind of progresses.
Yeah, I guess that was my question, John, is like, so we have the maps from 2011. You're going to meet with Sun Prairie. Like, how does that work? Just for my education, I mean, what questions do you start asking them? Do you try and redraw this map? Do you try and enforce this map? Or you try and put language to this map that we signed to? I mean, what's the intent here?
I think pretty much all of the above. Aaron, you want to weigh in on that?
I think we just start.
Sounds like a piece of cake. I'm glad Aaron's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just start by listening, maybe more than anything.
Right.
What are their concerns and what are their issues, and then move on from there. We've had different village presidents and stuff in the past when we tried this before, and we're certainly, in some cases, very aggressive approaches, and in some cases, more delicate or more, more trying to take a team approach in our discussions with the town. I guess neither one really got us to the finish line. So, you know, they are the ones that came to us wanting to pursue this again. So I think starting by, you know, hearing what they want to get out of it, and then making sure we're protecting our own interests as we try to address those concerns is what we want to do.
So process-wise, is this staff to staff, or do we set up a, not really a committee, but a smaller group? Maybe somebody from planning commission sits on in these meetings if it's a Zoom or something, just so that there's more seats at the table, more information, more eyes on the package, or does this totally stay with staff and then gets moved on to us for, you know, will you present your summary report as well as the formal full package language?
The town doesn't really have a staff, so we're kind of the ones that make the maps and do the reports and things like that. You know, with the agreement we've been working on with Madison and the town of Cottage Grove, John's been sitting in on those with Matt and myself. So I guess that's up to John if he wants to do this as well with the town of Sun Prairie effort. But typically we would have these meetings and then come back either in open session or in some cases in closed session if it's something that's you know, more of a negotiation strategy that we're trying to develop. Come back to you guys with that and get feedback, and it's kind of iterations of that until we get to something that everybody agrees with, and then we have a final document that's drafted up with our attorneys and their attorneys, and we bring that to the board for the final approval.
That worked well in the past, and I think it always came down to the cost of drafting an agreement and cost sharing. That always seems to be, whether it was the town of Cottage Grove or the town of Sun Prairie, that always seemed to be where these things ended.
You know, lawyers are expensive, right, Larry?
Stay on mute, Larry.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I think is and Aaron's right. So are planners that are contract planners. So I'm glad Aaron's in the fold now. But one of the things that we think of as being a real priority here in this discussion is it's been held against the village that the village has, in some minds walked away from these negotiations in the past. And I think we're going to reassess what it looks like, how termination of these efforts look if they do end up happening. And, it'll be, rather than walking away, it's come let us know when you're willing to share the cost, and because that really is something that's been held against us. So we're going to think about those things, and hopefully there'll be productivity, but at the same time, we're not going to set ourselves up to have these processes weaponized either.
Yep. Good. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the commission members? All right. Thanks, Aaron. Then we will move on to item 12, and in the same vein, is to review the current status of boundary agreement discussions, in this case with the city of Madison and the town of Cottage Grove. So these are a little bit further along, but still in its early discussion. So Aaron, you want to take us through that, please?
Yeah, so we've exchanged maps back and forth with the city of Madison started over a year ago. Then they had a change of mayors and went on hold for a little while. Now the new mayor is also kind of engaged in the process and wanting to move this forward. So we've been talking to them again. Basically, the city of Madison is looking at a growth area that extends into the town of Cottage Grove along that western boundary here. So basically in the pink area, where they would come into most contact with the village would be up along Vilas Road here. And we're kind of looking at Vilas Road as the long-term boundary between the two communities. One thing we've kind of pushed for in our discussions with them is having some kind of a green space barrier that's preserved primarily along BB as you come in from Madison into the village, just so it continues to feel like the village is a separate place and not just a continuation of the city. The existing cemetery helps to provide some of that. I think we'd like to see some of the territory between the cemetery and Vilas preserved as well. The city had agreed with that, and their proposal was this green space shown in the diagram on the right here. So I think we can work something out as far as that's concerned. I know the city and the town have kind of gone back and forth further south about where they want that line to be. I think that's a little bit less of a concern for us because it's kind of beyond, again, these barriers of wetlands and floodplains. So it's not really an area that we're feasibly going to grow into. So it's kind of for them, I think, ultimately to decide where this line ends up. What might start getting a little more complicated is between the village and the town as to where the village growth areas are going to be, on the east and south sides of the village. What's shown here is basically what's reflected as growth areas in the current comp plan, which looks about 20 years down the road. However, the town and the city have been talking about a 40-year agreement. So then we'd have to kind of take into consideration how much additional growth we would anticipate, for that extra 20 years, or do we look at something that's maybe a 40-year agreement along this more fixed line on the west side of the village, and maybe it's a 20-year agreement with the town over here. There's different ways to handle it. I think at this point we were just wanting to catch you guys up with the progress that's been made so far and see if you have any concerns or questions before we continue discussions with Cindy and
All right, thanks, Aaron. Comments or questions from the commission members? No questions?
John, I just have one comment.
Yep.
If we could just get a little bit of feedback would be helpful on just everyone's thoughts on the western edge versus the more eastern portions. It seems like towards the west, that's a little bit more well-defined and long-term seems to make more sense. But as Aaron said, we're a little more uncertain going east, and we very, very well may not want to commit to something that long out there. Do others tend to agree with that sentiment? We just want to make sure we're on the right path. It sounds like we are with the not hearing much back, but just want to check.
I would agree with that, Matt.
So less on the less of a commitment on the east then?
East
Just as
and
far as
south.
Time frames, yeah. East, south.
I agree with that as well.
Yeah, we just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the west is defined because Madison's already there. I mean, they're at the I think their last fire hydrant is in front of the church there, which is next to the hop, skip, and a jump to the cemetery. So that's the next logical road. And they're coming whether we want them to or not, unfortunately. So if we can, as Aaron said, if we can carve out a little bit of green space on BB, that will be, I think, probably the best we can do at this point.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt, for the questions. And Aaron for the discussion. So then we'll move on to item 13 is discuss an amendment to the Village of Cottage Grove zoning ordinance related to the conditional uses. So Aaron's been bouncing ideas off of us for the last couple meetings and has come back with some more details in his memo. So Aaron, you want to kind of walk through that, or?
Yeah, and this is more of a progress update, I guess, than anything else. Up to this point, we've kind of been talking, philosophically how we want to approach different land uses and whether they should be conditional uses or just permitted by right or become overlay districts, things like that. What we've done since the last meeting is just go through the ordinance and find every mention of conditional uses or every mention of these different land uses that we talked about. And I just kind of made a note that, we need to change these areas or change these sections, or in some cases just evaluate how the text is written currently relative to state statutes and things like that. So clearly it's a pretty big list. The next step would be for Larry and the legal staff and myself to go through it and actually draft the language for each of these bullet points. And that's, the ultimate amendment language that we would bring back here to get approved.
Okay. Any questions from commission members?
Are you trying to do this all at once, or is it piecemeal? I mean, this is an extensive list, and so this is great. Are you looking to try and swoop this all in one approval at one time, or we're gonna go through this like a bit at a time type of thing?
And Larry can weigh in on this as well. I think it's probably better to try to do it all at once, just so you don't have different, developers trying to sneak different uses in, and we don't have different rules for different conditional uses that aren't in place for others. And I think that just kind of opens the door for a lot of confusion if we don't try to change it all at once.
So how long do you think it'll take to bring it all back then?
we'll shoot for next month and maybe 2 months. It kind of depends what other projects and things come up in the interim.
Big list. So
And I think we have,
Yeah.
we may have the discussion before the commission multiple times, but I agree with Aaron that in terms of working through the actual approval and recommendation process, we should do it all at once.
Again, this is, as we've already talked about, this is due to the changes in state law, and advice from Larry, and obviously Aaron's put a lot of time already into this, but this is I think certainly something that we need to get in place as a community.
I think for a process, it's a lot to go through, right? So even if you brought this to the table next month, I don't think that's something you could put in our packet on a Friday night and then have us go through the whole thing.
I mean, we
by
can,
Wednesday. I mean,
Yeah.
just as a process caution, right? It's a lot. It is this is a tremendous amount of work that you guys got to push through. Like you said, we don't want confusion. That's the number one sort of complaint. Cottage Grove could be confusing to work with, right? This cleanup's going to eliminate a lot of that ambiguity, bring us up to speed with the state, as John mentioned. So I would, I guess my caution is to, hey, take your time and do it right, and then get it to us so that we have time to go through it as well if you're looking for our approvals.
we can discuss it in pieces and kind of have you sign off and set that piece aside and come back with the next piece the next month and that sort of thing. But I think as far as actually approving it, we want to have one approval of everything.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Any comments then additionally from Larry on this?
No, I think that's a good plan. And I think it's almost impossible for us to work through the whole list in one PC meeting. So it just as a matter of necessity, we'll have to break it up. We'll just have to see what we can get done. And maybe we'll even get to a point where we have, when whatever we're talking about this month, you've already got in your hands what we'll talk about next month, and we can just sort of rotate that way to give you some time to think about it.
All right. Thanks for that. All right, then we move on then to item 14 is future agenda items. Sounds like we'll have 1855 back. There is the further discussion about the comprehensive plan and some traffic information. Probably an update on the boundary agreements, and continue talking about the zoning ordinance and whatever else hopefully pops up for development. Matt, anything else, or Aaron? Or
let's see if I can say what Aaron's saying.
Did you read his lips?
I don't know. Aaron, you sound like you have an agenda item.
Yeah, it's our ventriloquism act. Yeah, Matt and I have some meetings over the next couple of weeks with various entities about a couple of projects. We'll see if they're ready to come in next month or maybe a few months down the road. Some of those.
Hopefully they're next time. All right. Any other agenda items from commission members? Otherwise, we'll move on to item 15.
Motion to adjourn.
Flip it, Fred, Melissa. Non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Everybody have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.